Here we will learn how to use LCID to create a certification record. To log into LCID, double-click the LCID icon on your desktop. Click OK on the LCID Release Information page, and select your agency from the drop-down menu to log in. It is important you choose the correct agency. Now that you are logged into LCID, you may proceed to creating certification record. Once you are logged into LCID, select the Create New Certification button. With the new certification application window up, enter the system name and the stage for the system you would like to create. Click OK once you are done. The Edit Certification page will now appear. Starting the line diagram and adding general information. To begin creating your line diagram, select a station from Stations palette and put it onto the canvas. You can accomplish this by clicking, holding, and dragging the station onto the canvas. Select a name for your station and click the OK button. You may do this as many times for as many different stations as you like or need for your certification. Notice the color coding linkable stations in the Stations palette. That will tell you what station can be linked to another station in what method. Next, you must create links between your stations. We'll be creating two bidirectional links between Watt 1 and Watt 2. The way we're going to do this is by entering link mode by clicking the Link Mode button on the toolbar, and then selecting each station, starting from the transmitting station to the receiving station, and doing it in the other direction to create a bi-directional link. Be sure to exit link mode to further edit the diagram. To delete one of the links, you'll simply right-click the link and select the Delete option. To make a station generic, right-click the station and select the Generic option. With the line diagram started, we can now move on to add our equipment to our system. We will come back to the diagram later to finish it. Add general information to your certification record by selecting the General Information tab in the tree view to the left-hand side. Begin to enter appropriate information that you have for the certification record. Remember, bold fields are required fields. Simply click on a field and use your keyboard to enter data, or in some cases using a drop-down menu to enter the data. Blue text in the data form means that you have entered appropriate and valid data into that field, but LCID has not saved that data yet. If LCID were to crash on you as you had blue data in your form, you would lose that data. Red text means that you have inputted invalid data for that field and you may need to change it. Remember to input all data you have for the certification system. Be sure to select the Save button often so that your blue text is turned to black text, meaning that LCID has saved your data. Location information can be added in two areas of the certification requests: for the certification itself and for a specific station. To add location information for the certification, you're going to right-click the Location Information node and choose Get Existing Location. Choose what stage the location will be at, and the Pick Existing Location window will appear. We're going to search for the location Maryland, as in the state, and use the Find First and Find Next buttons to look for the Maryland that doesn't have a city associated with it, indicating that we are going to select the state of Maryland. Once located, we'll click the OK button, and Maryland will automatically be added to our Location Information tab. Next, instead of adding an existing location, we're going to choose to add a completely new location. So we're going to right-click our location information and we're going to say Create Location. We're going to choose the stage, and we're going to enter our location's information. This includes the state, country, the location type, and geographic coordinates if applicable. After we have entered that information, we're going to need to change the map layer for the location we just added. To do that, we're going to right-click on the location in the tree view, and we're going to say Display and Edit in the Map. A window is going to pop up that we're going to click the OK button for, and we're going to use the location drop down at the top to select DoD land areas or whatever map layer your location is. You're going to click OK and then OK again, and the map layer is going to change for that specific location. This location was added at the certification request level, meaning that it applies to the entire certification request, but you can do this at the station level as well if you have stations spanning multiple locations. Security information is where you will put your classification markings for your specific record. To edit the security information, select the Security Information tab in the tree view. The Security Information window will pop up with several tabs. The Special Handling tab is up by default. Here you can select your special handling code, and you can view the overall classification of the record in the bottom left-hand corner. The other tabs, such as classification sources, declassification instructions, and downgrading instructions, are all grayed out as our certification request is unclassified, but if our certification request was either secret or confidential, it would require us to fill out those other tabs. Next, we will be creating a transmitter record for our Watt 1 station. To create the transmitter record, go to the station that you wish to create it for, select it, and right-click it, and say Add Transmitter, and then say Add New Transmitter. Enter a nomenclature for the transmitter, and select OK. Next, you'll be adding the general information for that specific transmitter. First, you will add a manufacturer for the transmitter. This field is tricky in that you must type the specific and exact text that LCID has for the transmitter. The easiest way to do that is by clicking the ellipse button and searching for your transmitter manufacturer from this list. Once you find your manufacturer, you can select it from the list and click the OK button. You can always add a manufacturer if that manufacturer does not exist on the list, but it is advised that you use the manufacturer on the list. Another field of note is the FCC acceptance number. If you have this number available to you, you should enter it in your certification, as it will make it easier for LCID to approve your record and make the whole process go faster. Next, we will be adding a power to this transmitter. To do this, you're going to right-click the transmitter you just created and select the Add Power option. The power window then comes up, and you are going to select the type of power and the upper limit for the power. Next, you'll be adding a frequency to your transmitter. Right-click your transmitter and select the frequency you desire. You can add tuned or a fixed frequency. Enter the pertinent data into the frequency fields. After the frequencies have been added, we're going to now add harmonics. We can add them as a multiple harmonic or single harmonic. For a multiple harmonic, we're going to check the boxes next to the harmonics we want to add, whether that be second, third, or other, and then we are going to enter the attenuations for them. Once we have entered the data, we're going to click the OK button, and our harmonics are now added underneath the tree view. Now we are going to add a single harmonic. In this situation, our other harmonic is going to act as our fourth harmonic. So this single harmonic is going to be our fifth harmonic. We're going to select that from the harmonic number drop-down menu and enter our attenuation. Now we're going to add a emission designator transmitter. To do this, we're going to right-click on our frequency and select Add Emission Designator. We're going to enter our necessary bandwidth, and that's going to begin our emission designator. Now we can also type in the ellipse button and to bring up an emission designator builder that has drop-down menus and other helpful devices to build an emission designator. Next, we are going to add a modulation to our transmitter. To do this, we are going to right-click our emission designator and click Add Modulation. We're going to enter the required fields in this form. Anywhere in LCID where it asks is it measured or calculated, if you are working on a stage 4 system, all these values must be measured for it to pass compliance. There are some fields in LCID that can be used to calculate other fields. In this instance, it's peak deviation, deviation ratio, and maximum modulation frequency. If you have 2 out of 3 of those fields, you can calculate the third. In this case, we have the deviation ratio and the maximum modulation frequency. We can click the calculator button next to the peak deviation to calculate it from those 2 values. Next, we are going to put values into the RF fundamental curve. Click the automatically created RF fundamental curve node. When asked for measured or calculated, we will select measured. Notice that there is red text saying enter half bandwidths. In some applications, you may get data in full bandwidths. In this case, divide your bandwidths by 2 and enter the data here. As you enter data, you'll notice a curve being built below in the graph. This is your RF fundamental curve. You may select the auto scale button so that the graph auto scales it, and you can turn log scale on and off for the graph. To complete our transmitter, we're going to add a spurious emission by right-clicking the transmitter and saying Add Spurious Emission Curve. Simply enter the data you have here for the spurious emission. If you have a maximum spurious emission, select the Maximum Spurious Emission checkbox. Next, we'll be creating a receiver record for our system certification record. To create a new receiver, select the station you'd like to create it for, right-click it, and say Add Receiver, Add New Receiver. Enter a nomenclature for the receiver, similarly how you did for the transmitter, and select the OK button. You'll fill out this information page just as you did for the transmitter, and just as you did for the transmitter, you're going to add a frequency for the receiver, in this case a tuned frequency. Next, we will add an emission stage sensitivity by right-clicking the frequency and adding an emission sensitivity. We'll enter the pertinent information we have here. Next, we are going to add the IF selectivity curve for our receiver record by right-clicking the emission sensitivity we created and selecting IF selectivity curve. This, just like the RF selectivity curve in the transmitter, requires data in half bandwidths, so be sure to enter your data in half bandwidths. Next, we are going to add the RF selectivity to our transmitter. To do that, we're going to right-click our frequency and add RF selectivity. Just like in the transmitter, we're going to enter our data as half bandwidths. We have now successfully created a receiver and can now move on to adding the antenna. Now we will add an antenna to our certification record. To create an antenna, right-click the station that you want to add the antenna to, select Add New Antenna, and then select the type of antenna, in this case linear. Enter a nomenclature for the antenna, and then click the OK button. enter all the information for the antenna just like you did for the transmitter and the receiver. Once you have entered all the antenna information, you have now completed creating a new antenna for your certification record. Be sure to save your record at every point you can. Instead of creating new equipment records, you can get existing equipment records that already exist in your LCID database. You can add existing equipment to your stations, including receivers, antennas, and transmitters, by right-clicking the station you want to add the existing equipment to, selecting the piece of equipment, and say Get Existing Equipment. Here you can search your database and select the equipment you want. Once you find the equipment you want, you're going to press OK, and it will automatically add that piece of equipment to the station you want to add it to. Make note that if you have the same equipment record underneath two different stations, when you edit one equipment record under one station, it will also edit the data under the equipment record under the second station. Instead of creating new equipment records, you can get existing equipment records that already exist in your LCID database. Now that we have all of our equipment in our stations, we can now go back to the diagram and complete our line diagram. We're going to select the link that we want to complete. We're going to right-click it and say Edit. Here, we're going to select the radio, service, and station classes that we want to use for our configuration. Once we've selected them using the checkboxes, we click OK. We then go down to the bottom to the Available Modes section, and we're going to select the in-band modes. And there's several different ways we can do that. By using click and move over arrow for one, we can shift click and move over multiple. We can control click and move over multiple. And we can also select the in-band only checkbox to move over only the in-band modes. Now notice down at the bottom that the link is invalid. If we click on that, it gives us some more information. We can click Apply, and now the link is valid now that we have the selected modes. Make note that if you have multiple pieces of equipment, you're going to have to do the same process for each transmitter, receiver, and antenna configuration you have. We can click the View Link button to view the link in a grid format, and we can click the Show Frequency List grid to see that same frequency configuration. Next, we will learn to add attachments to our LCID record. The reason why you may want to add an attachment is maybe there is additional information that you want to give to NTIA. Since the certifiers at NTIA do not see the remark sections in an LCID document, it is important to attach any additional information in a PDF or a Word document format attached to the LCID record. To add an attachment to LCID, right-click the Attachments node and select Add Attachment. From there, an Attachments page will appear. Select the ellipse button in the attachment field to browse your local drive. Locate the file you wish to attach the LCID document and choose Open. Your file now appears in the Attachments field. Add the date the file was attached and be sure to save. You can select the Preview button for the specific file, click OK, and now LCID will use any program on your local computer to open that file type. Next, we will talk about the status log. The status log records any information like who edited and who opened the record last, as well as any comments that might be on the record. To access the status log, on the left-hand tree view, right-click on the status log node. Here brings up the status log where you can see the record was created and modified by the Army agency. We can add a comment by clicking the Add Comment button and typing in the comment into the field. Comments now appear in the status log. Comments can also be deleted. Next, we'll show you how to do compliance checks. Compliance checks ensure that your record is ready to go to NTIA and is less likely to be rejected by them, ensuring that your record gets approved as fast as possible. These checks against several rules, such as from the NTIA handbook or from the DoD. To perform a compliance check, select the Compliance Check button on the top toolbar. The compliance window shows up with the categories of which they will do the checks. Leave them as default and click the Run Checks button. This can take some time. As the progress of the compliance checks goes up, a running feed of how many failures, warnings, and notes are going to show up in your record. Failures are something that need to be fixed. Failures need to be fixed before it gets sent to NTIA. If your system has a failure for any reason that you cannot correct, you must write in a document a justification on why that failure exists, and you send that to NTIA. Warnings are something the software wants you to double check. It may be something that's abnormal or something that doesn't normally happen within the certain LCID rules. It just wants you to double check these fields. Warnings can stay before they get sent to NTIA. Failures must be corrected. Notes are once again just sort of reminders or some basic information that you may need to keep in mind while you are performing LCID. Once the checks are complete, click the View Results button. That's going to bring up the compliance checks for the first general information node. And as you click the Next button, it'll go down the tree and show you each compliance violation for each node. As you can see, the failures are in red, and there is a description of that failure, warning, or note underneath the specific tag. It also references the specific compliance check that it was checking against to get these results. Here you see me going through and fixing a compliance check for the tuning method. This is what you would do. So you run compliance, go through your record again, and correct all the failures and some warnings if you desire, and you'd run compliance again until you were out of warnings or if you needed to justify a failure. LCID has several print options that the user can take advantage of to print hard copies of the certification records. To print the record, simply go to the Print button on the top toolbar, and here are all the print options that the user can choose. For this, we're going to print the full record print, including the compliance checks. To print out the compliance checks, it is going to require LCID to run compliance checks again, even if compliance checks were run previously. Once the compliance checks are complete, the print will show up in your window in LCID's native PDF viewer. And here you can have the options to scroll through the pages as well as zoom in and zoom out using the magnifying glass. And you can also print and save the record as a PDF to your local drive. Once you have completed your LCID record, you're going to need to send it to get certified to NTIA, and to do that you'll have to get it exported. Here we'll learn how to export an LCID record. To export an LCID record, select the Export button on the top toolbar, ensure the file path is where you want to go on your computer, and select the Export button. You're going to have to choose the cover sheet for the classification markings of the record, and once you have, you click OK, and click OK again. And the record is now exported to the selected destination.